Let's walk and talk about superdelegates. In particular, an article I read on Mediaite this morning about why us Democrats need to stop worrying so much about superdelegates. Now, obviously, we feel like, whether we're Bernie supporters or Hillary supporters, that this election has been undemocratic in about 36 ways. There have been voting irregularities, there have been a lack of funding for polling places, there has been a concerted effort to make sure that as few people as possible vote, which is something that we more commonly associate with the Republican Party. We don't like to see it on our own. So, to hear in this Mediaite article, and it's an argument that you'll see all over the place, that we're worrying too much about superdelegates is basically the straw that broke the Democratic camel's back. The donkey's back, I guess, in this particular case. And this is something that you will hear a lot. Now, I like Mediaite a lot of the time. They have quite a few right-wing authors, so I don't like those articles so much. But to say that they've never overthrown an election, that superdelegates have never been the defining thing that shows a candidate in the handful of elections in which we've had them in the Democratic primaries, is not an argument to not get rid of them. It's not an argument to not worry about them. I don't care if they haven't ever thrown an election. I don't care if in the next 20 elections they're not the deciding factor that takes away the will of the voters. Simply having it there, it's a blade hanging over our head. It's a constant reminder that at the end of the day, the Democratic Party does not really care what the people say, if what the people say is that they want a candidate that the leadership of the party doesn't like. We get to choose that. Now, the Mediaite writer, I can't speak for that particular writer, but many would say that there's nothing necessarily democratic about party primaries. There's nothing necessarily democratic about even the Democratic Party primary. And they're not wrong. There's nothing in, the American Constitution or anything like that that says that these parties have to be democratically run, okay? But that also doesn't mean anything, because in the same way that they don't necessarily have to be democratic, they are what we say they are. They are what we make them. And I believe that regardless of whether you're a Bernie or a Hillary supporter, we want them to be democratic, and we need to put pressure on them to become so. And so, if you don't like the long lines that people have had to wait in, if you don't like caucuses instead of primaries, if you don't like the fact that you might have to register 6 months before a primary, you need to put pressure on the party now to force them to become the party that we want them to be. The article, by the way, ended by saying that with this election, there are so many things to worry about. Is this really one of the things you need to worry about? First point, I have room in my head to worry about a whole lot of things. I don't need your help to help me ration out what I should be worrying about. And secondly, even if I did have to be careful in choosing what to worry about, this is one that I would definitely put pretty high up there. I mean, think about the amount of work that we put in to sending out a message to politicians for future elections that we want a certain type of candidate. The work that we put into supporting that candidate, to going to their rallies, to donating to them, to spreading their message online. The idea that we could do all of that, and at the end of the day, it's even hypothetically possible that our will would be overthrown by the Democratic Party and the superdelegates. Fuck that. I don't care if that's not if that's the Democratic Party that they want in the leadership. That's not the Democratic Party that I want. And until we have a third party alternative, which we don't currently have, I am going to make the Democratic Party into the party I want it to be, in the same way that I would make the president into the president I would want it to be, which is Bernie Sanders. So let me know about this, what you think about this. Do you think that we should be worried about superdelegates? Do you think that it's okay for the media to say that, sorry, there's a kid running around. This is one of the cool things about Walk and Talk. Do you think that it's okay for people in the media to so casually toss aside our concerns which have been generated by a particularly undemocratic primary? Let me know in the comments section, and I'll walk and talk with you in the next video.